Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. All right, I am excited to welcome Nick to the show. Welcome into the podcast, Nick.
Oh, thank you so much, Kara. I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Yes. All right. Well, let's start with you telling the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So, what I do is I specialize in an advanced type of energy work called the Ivana method. And I use that to help both men and women that are really struggling, maybe months or even years after they've been through a breakup or a divorce. So, helping them to move past the negative thoughts and memories that they have about their ex and that whole experience and rebuild their inner sense of self security so that they can really quickly get back to their life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I was really excited to have this discussion with you because I think it's an area, breakups happen in life,
Hmm.
and they're not always that someone did something to the other person, but sometimes people change, people outgrow someone, where people evolve. And sometimes my therapist has she always uses this analogy that, like, the train is moving, when people are evolving, the train is moving. And it's like, if you're not going to get on, you might get left at the station. And
Hmm.
so there are multiple reasons for why people may decide to separate. But I think a lot of times the focus is on, like, well, someone did something bad to somebody and then, therefore they broke up. So I want to start, with this question to you to talk about the brain and the heart,
Hmm.
because the brain can tell you one thing and the heart can do another. So, like, let's talk about the role that the brain and the heart play in it being so hard for people to step away or to stop thinking about the ex after a breakup or a divorce.
Yeah, sure. So, I definitely agree with you that it's like the heart can say one thing and the brain can say another. And it's like they're kind of battling back and forth between one another,
Yes,
right?
right.
So, yeah, so what's really interesting about that is uh, science has found that our heart sends 4 times more information up to the brain than the brain does back down to the heart. So the heart is actually kind of the boss, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when you're struggling after a breakup or a divorce, your heart rhythms are in direct correlation to the emotions that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling angry or if you're feeling sad, what's happening is you're sending a very erratic signal from your heart up to your brain. And that is going to keep you stuck in like a fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to be really hard to think clearly, to make decisions,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of see a way out of your situation.
Mm-hmm.
So the really good news is that you can change that signal from your heart up to your brain from very erratic to a very smooth or coherent signal.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, instead of your heart and your brain kind of, battling between one another, it's like they connect up and they play nice, you know? So you're you're sending this nice smooth signal from your heart up to your brain,
Mhm.
and that helps you to calm down that fight or flight response, and you're rather you're starting to think more clearly, and you're
Mhm.
able to see options and opportunities around your situation that you may have not seen before. So,
Right.
if it's okay with you, what I would like to do is I can coach you and your audience through a technique that I give my clients called heart focused breathing.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go for
Okay,
it.
cool. Yeah, let's do it. All right. So, when you're ready, I invite you to just go ahead and just start to slow down your breathing. So you just want to find a nice rhythm that works for you. And when you're ready, I invite you just to bring your attention down to your heart or your chest area. And you can even put your hand on that area if it feels comfortable for you. And then as you're breathing in and out, just finding a nice, comfortable rhythm for yourself, you want to make a sincere attempt to connect with your heart. And as you breathe in, you just want to imagine your breath flowing into your heart or your chest area. And as you breathe out, you want to imagine your breath flowing out of your heart or your chest area. And we can do this heart-focused breathing together just for the next couple of seconds. All right. And Kyra, I'm just curious, now that we've been doing that for a couple of seconds, are you noticing any change in your body or maybe your mind from just doing that little bit of heart focused breathing?
I got more relaxed
Mm-hmm.
because at first I didn't realize that I think I was like all like jazzed up or amped up, right? And then
Uh-huh.
the longer it went and I started to like focus, and I think even
Mm-hmm.
putting my hand here on my
Mm-hmm.
heart like helped, because then I was able to like tell myself that it was okay. It's like I told my brain, or my heart said to my brain, like, it's okay to relax.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can let go. And then that's when I started to almost like zone out, into like this
Mm-hmm.
place of just like still.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also, as I was coming out and you calling, I was like, maybe after on the side of my bed, after my alarm goes off, I need Nick
Uh-huh.
at the side saying, okay, now let's start. Do this
Right.
exercise.
Right, right. We'll record an audio after and I'll
But yeah, that's how I felt.
Good. Yeah. So it sounds like you felt more calm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
I like it.
Great. Yes. Yeah. So that's like a little simple exercise your audience
Mm-hmm.
can do when they're thinking about their ex, right? Is do
Mm-hmm.
the heart focused breathing to bring their attention down to their heart instead of like just staying stuck up in their head, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think like this feels like a great exercise too that you could do, like when you're just getting worked up about, a lot of things, or when life is lifing, as I like to say. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
bring that focus back down to like find a peace, almost calmness, peace,
Mm-hmm.
and stop, because yeah, it's just interesting. So it's, like if you think about it, I think about it, like I was just, I always get amped up when I'm going to do podcast recording because I'm like, excited, bringing energy,
Uh-huh.
but you can only think about how it feels when someone is, post relationship,
Mm-hmm.
or even if you're in a relationship, right? And it feels like your brain could, your mind, your brain, everything is telling you different things, like you said. And the heart, telling you like you gotta, maybe you need to check, you need to call this person. Like you life,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, remember the good, like, or remember the good times. Just call, even if it's like a situation where you shouldn't be calling a person, or like it just triggered. Like I was just thinking about that. Like I haven't had a lot of breakups in my lifetime, but
Hmm.
just thinking back to like, early years when I was younger and how, and especially like when you're young, you're younger, like everything is
Hmm. Yeah.
amplified times like 1,000.
Right.
You're like your heart is, I mean, I can remember that it was definitely, my brain wasn't saying anything, it was just my heart just going like
Yeah, yeah.
so woo. Oh, that was, I like that. That was really good. And anybody, if you're listening to us and you want to see it happen, you should go to YouTube and check out the video. All right, so now let's talk about the thing that I feel like is something that we all, have done in the past as it relates to a breakup or a divorce. It's the past stored emotions.
Hmm.
So, like, how does that play? What role do past stored emotions, like in the body, play in being able to move forward after a breakup?
Yeah. So when we go through an overwhelming experience like a breakup or a divorce, we
Mm-hmm.
feel just so many different emotions. And what happens is most of the time we're unable to really process or integrate all of those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to go somewhere and they get stored in the body, and they
Mm-hmm.
can also get stored in the organs and the glands and even the nervous system as well. So what I do when I'm doing Avana method energy work with my clients is I'm able to find the source of where those emotions and even the stored memories are in their body. And
Mm-hmm.
then what I'm doing is I'm bringing those stored emotions or those memories back into balance. And what that does is that starts to take a lot of the emotional charge out of the stored emotions or the memories so that someone can start to move forward. And when that happens, we feel more whole. We
Mm-hmm.
have more access to all of us because our energy isn't being like jammed up. It's able to flow more freely in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And then another part is I do give my clients these heart centered tools and techniques so that they can start to really understand how to care for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I don't want to be the fixer.
Right.
I want
Yeah.
to empower my clients to
Yeah.
understand that they can really heal themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's really important, that you said that, because I think a lot of times when people sometimes seek, help, or from, no matter what area in your life, a lot of
Hmm.
times it's like a kind of like the person helping you is there to help you, give you the tools, and then offer accountability, but
Hmm.
or to help you with accountability. But we as the person who is engaging, we have to take ownership, and we have to learn how to take those tools, because like you said, you want to be empowered to be like self-sufficient, to
Hmm.
begin to do that on your own and not just relying on, okay, well, I'm going to wait for my call with Nick so that, my life isn't going to be in shambles. My energy is going to be all over the place. And then, but when I
Hmm.
get on the
Right.
phone with him, then he's going to make it better. And then
Hmm.
essentially you're going to be in this cycle of like doing the same thing over and over and over if you never learn how to utilize the tools. So I'm really glad you
Yeah.
said that, because I think that's so important.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely.
so so when you talk about, the energy that's in the body, right, and
Hmm.
it just there are a lot of effects that can come from, someone maybe holding on to that and holding it in their body. And it could be physically like harming, right? Not only mentally, but also the physical side of, like being sick or something because you're holding on to this energy in your body. Now, have you been in situations with maybe some clients in the past where it's been to a place of like, you've got to release that energy or you're going to harm yourself?
Oh yeah. So so we're more than our physical body, right? We're more than just muscles and bones and
Mm-hmm.
skin and all of that. So we exist at many different levels. We have a physical level, we have a mental level, emotional,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, energetic. So these stored emotions and these stored memories, they can get kind of stored at any of these levels.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when I work with someone, I'm looking at, okay, where is the source? What level is it on? And when we have physical pain, for example, let's say after we went through a breakup or a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
we might go to a chiropractor or we might go get a massage
Mm-hmm.
or something along those lines to ease that physical pain. But after we've been to the chiropractor or the massage therapist for the 10th time, and that pain is still there, then we have to start looking at, okay, what other level is this
Mm-hmm.
occurring at? So we have an energetic level to us. And if the stored emotion or the memory is at this energetic level, it can affect the body.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe someone might be experiencing neck pain or maybe shoulder pain. And once the energetic level is brought back into balance, that's going to affect the physical level where the pain might be greatly reduced or it just might be fully resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to work at these different levels because they affect one another. And when we understand all these different levels about ourselves, again, we have a sense of really feeling whole and feeling complete.
Awesome. I like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as we talk about the healing journey, why is the healing journey not a linear process? And why is it important that for people to understand that?
Yeah, so this honestly, Kyra, this is something I wish I could shout from the rooftops, you know, or just like have a shirt made that says healing happens in layers and just wear it around
Yes.
town, because it's that important.
Yeah.
So, just like I was saying, we have these different layers, these different aspects to us.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether we're receiving energy work or we're in therapy or we're in
Mm-hmm.
counseling, um, we really do heal through these different layers. And it's so important to understand because maybe one day when we go to see someone who does energy work or a therapist, for example, and we feel great, and then
Mm-hmm.
next week, all of a sudden, anger might come up or
Mm-hmm.
sadness might come up. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, where is this coming from? I thought that I dealt with this years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to these stored emotions and these stored memories that I was talking about that
Mm-hmm.
are really at a deep level in our system. So, what happens is we might make some progress, and then the body says, oh, hey, you're doing really awesome. You're doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to bring up this unresolved issue or concern that
Mm-hmm.
I've been holding inside of me for the past 10 years that
Mm-hmm.
when it happened, I just didn't have the resources to be able to heal and, move forward from. But
Right.
now that I'm doing this work, I finally do. So I'm going to bring that up to the surface because you're stronger, you're getting healthier, you're feeling better, and you have the energy to finally heal this and resolve this. So when it's happening, it can sometimes be really uncomfortable to go through, but it's not that you're moving backwards, you're actually moving forwards. So it's something to really to be gentle with about yourself and to really give yourself a lot of love and compassion through this whole process.
I absolutely love that because that is so true. It's so true. And like as you evolve and you grow as a person, and especially if you're doing any development work, anything where you're trying to be a better version of yourself, like you said, there are going to be things that trigger from the past that you remember, like that you just think of and you're like, oh wow, because I had that happen to me just this morning when I was gotten up and I was like, in the bathroom, I was like doing my like skincare routine, and I was triggered by something that happened to me in high school. In high school, where and we digress here. We pull stories, y'all know. Anybody who listens, we pull, these things are all connected. It's really just to highlight the work when you're doing the work. As Nick said, it's important to be gentle with yourself and give yourself that grace, because I was doing this and I just started like this new skincare routine. And I remember, because last week I was telling my mom, I was like, well, before I leave this earth, I want to have clear and good skin again. I was like, I haven't had good. I was like, I'm still living like a teenager's life with like breakouts and stuff. And so I was like doing that, and I was like, oh, I'm seeing like a difference. And it just started this skincare routine. But I remember going back to where I was in school, and like a boy said something about my skin. And I remembered that in that moment. And that was so many years ago. Like I haven't been in school in like ages. But I also was like, you know what? The younger version of yourself, you didn't know how to respond to that. But how would you respond to that today? And so I was able to, like say it, what helped me to like move beyond it is just to say, well, you know what I would have said to him if I had known all these things today is that I would have said, well, you worry about your skin and you let me worry about mine,
Right.
or, like it, but it's just then I didn't know because I was just, you're caught off guard by things when people say things and you don't have the proper tools. You don't have the tools in the toolkit to be able to like stand up for yourself, or you don't know how to handle it. And so it's just all that to say, everybody, is that as you continue to work, as you continue to grow and evolve, you're going to be old things, stored past memories. Like Nick said, they're going to come up. And as long as I think you're doing the work and you have the tools in the kit or the resources that can help you to deal with it, I'm glad I acknowledged it, right? Like, I'm like, you know what? Yep, that did hurt then. I didn't realize that it hurt then, but it did. But now it's just like, but I'm not defined by that moment. I'm stronger from that moment. So.
Yeah, that's a really great example. I love it, Kyra.
So it's just, and I like I said, I just love that you talk about the process being not linear, and just the fact that like it's evolving. It's all the things have to work together at different times, and it's just about being, dedicated to yourself to be better and to work through things and try to move forward from them. And not, because if you just like was in a car and you said, I'm driving to the store So I'm going from my house to the store. Like, okay, yeah. And I don't want anything to happen along the way. I just want
Right.
but when you're in a healing journey, I mean, you might be going to the store, but then on the way you saw the Starbucks and you said, oh man, I really want pumpkin spice latte, and then you just veered off and you like made some different stops before you ever even made it to the store. Like, to me, that's how I look at like the healing process. Like, because or you're like, oh, I got this craving, like I'm using simple things, right? But like, if
Yeah.
you're thinking about like in your life, like even as I go through a continued journey in therapy, yeah, some weeks I'm like, some weeks it's like, oh no, it's good over here, like everything's good, and then the next week it's like, oh my God, let me just tell you what happened. And so it's very up and down, because there are always going to be moments of things from our past, stored emotions, stored memories that come to the surface, and we have to deal with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I love your Starbucks analogy. That's great. And yeah, it's like when we do go through the healing journey, I've worked with some clients where they're like, this is my second session with you. Why am I not all better? And it's like, well, okay, you've been holding this in your body for the past 5 years or whatever. It's gonna take some time,
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's so, again, it's so important just to be compassionate with yourself and to have that patience and to know that whatever comes up, you are moving forward. It's not
Yes.
you're not sliding backwards.
Yep. And you're not in a race. Like, you're not in a race.
Mm-hmm.
There's no timeline on your healing. And I think that that's also important. That, like you said, that's a very good statement, is that for someone, to say, this is my second, like, there's no time limits on healing. And
Yeah.
and for me, like, I want to always be in therapy, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to always be evolving as Kyra. So I'm going to always want that support from someone who can listen and who can say, can help me through. Because I don't think, like, you just get to a certain age and it's like, oh, well, I've got to 60. I don't need any more
Right.
therapy. We are good to go. And I know we live, and I think, it's a product of the world that we live in. Like, we know, people seek instant gratification, and they want everything just as fast as something they can get on their phone. And it's like, no, this is like this is like your body, your mind, your spirit. Like, this is what we're talking about here. And you can't treat it like it's like a deposit, at the bank, or it's like you're driving through the drive-through. And I'd like to get a number 5, which is, I will be healed in 2 days.
Right. Exactly.
So it's just remembering that, because it's always like changing. Like, you're always changing, and you deserve to have people in your corner that can be there to support you along the way.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so now let's talk about the Ivana method, energy work versus Reiki. I know a lot of people probably have heard, Reiki, but maybe people are not as familiar with the Ivana method. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, with Reiki, I'm a Reiki master. So
Mhm.
that's been like since 1998. So a long time ago. Um, And, with Reiki, it's great work. What I find is it tends to be just kind of really like a general healing.
Mhm.
So the Reiki practitioner, they might focus on balancing a chakra or an energy
Mhm.
center within the body.
Mhm.
With the Avada method, it's very specific in the sense that, again, I'm able to look at where or find rather the core on many different levels and layers at once. So, really getting specific with where you're holding something in your body, in
Mhm.
your system, and then again, bring a healing energy to it, and bringing balance and a neutralization, to that stored emotion or to that stored memory.
Mhm.
So again, it's getting very specific with where things are being held, in the
Mhm.
body.
Awesome. I like that. Because yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, as you were saying that, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I wonder where I'm holding something, like,
Hmm.
and it's like, can you tell, like, is it a physical feeling to know? Like, do you find that like people often maybe say like, oh yeah, I've got some shoulder pain, and I'm wondering if there's like energy or something that I'm holding on to. Is it as not to make light of anything? I'm just asking because I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it as do you have people that come to you and maybe say that, and then you try to figure out like, is that the place? Like, how does that work? I'm just interested. I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah, sure,
know.
sure. I love it. I love it. So, yeah, so, with the shoulder pain, it could be an experience that they've held in their body that they
Mhm,
haven't fully resolved. And their shoulder just might be where their body decides, okay, this is where I'm going to hold this,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
a lot of times, what I'll do with clients is sometimes really their subconscious mind it wants to know, okay, at what age did I hold this experience? So I can find that out. So, to give you an example, I was working with a client a couple of weeks ago, and she was in her 40s, and she was saying how it was, oh, geez, I think it was like 2 years that she had been struggling with trying to get her ex, out of her head.
mhm,
He had broken up with her, and it was just kind of a shock to her system. So when I was working with her, I said, okay, the age of 18 is coming up. So was there an experience that happened to you during that time that was maybe really stressful or overwhelming? And she said, oh, yeah, I was in a relationship at that time with this guy, and, there were some commitment issues, and, he
mhm,
broke up with me at that time. So, what happens is when we go through a breakup or a divorce, um, we we will feel certain emotions,
mhm,
and when we go through a stressful experience earlier in our life, we'll also feel those stressful emotions.
mhm,
So when I'm working with someone and I find a younger age like that, what's happening is they're taking that emotion of shock, for example, that they experienced at age
mhm,
18. And since it hasn't been fully healed, they're applying that same emotion to the present situation,
mhm,
even though it happened years ago.
mhm,
So that's where it's very beneficial to find, these ages when you
mhm.
have that experience, because that gives us a clue as to why you're experiencing what you're experiencing in the present moment.
Right. Oh, I love that. People, listen.
Hmm.
You gotta get the energy work done. You gotta call Nick, especially if you've gone through or are going through or have gone through a breakup and you're finding it hard to move on, or you're having these moments of like, oh, should I, I can't get my ex out of my head, and just to heal, just to start that healing process just feels like
Hmm.
it, just because it just feels so like it's so unfair to the person who is still carrying this. I mean, that is so it's so hard to hear a person who had a breakup when they were 18, and
Hmm.
then like for all the years like that she's just been living it almost like existing and in life, but like not maybe being at her fullest, because she was holding on to energy that maybe she didn't even realize. Whew.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
this is that's so interesting to me. But wow. Okay, so you do there's a daily self-love exercise that you
Mm-hmm.
recommend that helps to restore self-love after a
Mm-hmm.
difficult breakup or divorce. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So, after we've been through a breakup or a divorce, and I've certainly found this in my own life, when I've
Mhm,
been broken up with or cheated on, is
mhm,
that your self-love diminishes.
mhm.
It's not that it hasn't gone away, it just gets kind of covered over.
Right.
The thing though is that we can learn with practice and with time to start to really rebuild that self-love.
Mhm,
So, one of the tools that I'll give my clients is the daily self love exercise. And
mhm,
it's really simple. We all take a shower in the morning.
mhm,
So, what you do is when you take a shower, you just practice just touching your body with all the love and all the respect that you can in that moment.
mhm,
And the first couple of times you do it, it might feel just kind of unnatural or weird because you're
mhm,
not used to doing it.
mhm,
But the more that you do it, your body becomes like a sponge where it starts to soak in that self love,
mhm,
and your self love starts to build and build and build. So
mhm,
you can imagine how someone is going to feel about themselves and about their body, doing this for 2 weeks, for 3 months,
mhm.
for 90 days.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a night and day, or a day and night, whatever
Mhm.
transformation.
Yeah, yeah. I love that because I think that exercises like that, they are needed, right? They seem so
Mm-hmm.
simple, right? They seem like simple things to do, like why not? Yes, you should. But it's just when someone brings that to the table, it's such an interesting thing. I'm definitely going to try that. Because I think that's just important because and I love that you do just already say like it may feel unnatural in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to stick with it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that with this audience too.
Yeah, and that's really the healing journey. It's staying consistent with it,
Mhm.
whatever you decide to do.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk. What's the little known reason why the no contact rule is hard to implement post breakup or divorce?
Yeah, so this one is so interesting because, you'll read on the internet that like you have to do the no contact rule,
Hmm.
when you go through a breakup or a divorce, right?
Hmm.
So no checking your social media,
Yeah.
your ex's social media,
Hmm.
no texting, no calling, just like cut it off completely.
Hmm.
And I think why a lot of men and women really struggle with that is because they're still energetically connected to their ex. So
Hmm.
even though they're no longer physically in the relationship, on an energetic level, they're again still connected to their ex. So
Hmm.
that's why it can be hard to stop thinking about them, or
Hmm.
maybe old feelings or memories come up.
Hmm.
And it's very common for a lot of energy workers, people that offer energy work, to cut energetic cords between people. So when we're in a relationship, we form these energetic cords that go between us. And I used to practice cutting energetic cords, but I found that they always come back.
Hmm.
So with the Ivana method energy work, what I do is something called a re-exchange of energy.
Hmm.
And what that does is it's re-exchanging energy between two people that they gave each other in the relationship.
Hmm.
And I can re exchange energy between two people or between someone and an experience that they had. So when we go through an experience, for example, say it's like physical abuse,
Hmm.
we give energy to that experience, but then that experience also leaves energy with us.
Mhm.
So when that happens, it's really hard to heal and to move forward from that experience. So
Right.
it's just re-exchanging the energy between the person and the experience that they went through.
Mhm.
So doing that re-exchange of energy, it helps to, like I was saying earlier, start to kind of neutralize those stored emotions, those stored memories, so that someone can think about their ex or think about that experience and have kind of more of a a
Mhm.
neutral feeling about it, where there's no
Right.
longer like a strong emotional charge.
Right. I like that. Yes. Awesome. All right. So, Nick, why don't you tell everyone how they could work with you and where they can connect to you online?
Yeah, sure. So I've created it's a free get your ex out of your head 14-day challenge. And this is kind of a fun way to start to get your ex out of your head. So I give them over a period of 2 weeks 10 holistic and heart centered actions that they can take every single day. And the idea is that when you take an action, you score points. So you want to score at least 40 points a week to start to move forward. So it's kind of like gamifying this whole process and kind of bringing some fun to what could be like otherwise a really kind of
Mhm.
challenging process to go through.
Right.
So your audience, they can sign up for that free challenge at cultivatewellness.com/challenge. And then if they want to do work with me, on my website, I have a tab that says work with me. And I offer a complimentary 60-minute energy work session where we'll go into a concern. I'll find out, what's the source of that. And
Mhm.
then I'll do a little bit of Ivana method energy work with them to start to bring their emotions back into balance. And it's not a sales call. There's no like pitch at the end or anything like that. If they are interested in working with me further, then we'll set up a second call to go ahead and talk about that.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
I have loved this conversation. And I think, like, just even in today's conversation, that you have left us with so many great nuggets. And for anyone who's listening out there who may be experiencing like a post breakup from a relationship or a marriage, that hopefully you've gotten some nuggets from this, and also an opportunity to connect to Nick here as well. That challenge sounds quite interesting. No,
Hmm.
like you said, and I love that. Like, while it is necessary, definitely a challenging time, but maybe you're able to, find a little joy in being able to like move forward with this
Hmm.
exercise. All right, so now we're going to go into three things with Nick. I'm going to ask you three questions. Just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. The first
Sure.
one, I love that I say this. I said, I'm going to ask you three questions, but the first one's a two-parter.
Okay.
So it's a
I'm ready.
1A, 1B situation. Okay, so how do you start and end your days?
So with starting my day, I usually will review some goals or some intentions that I set to accomplish for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as ending my day, I'll do some heart focused breathing, that I coached you and your audience through.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's important just to really connect with my heart. Because when we connect with our heart, we're connecting really with our authentic self, with
Mm-hmm.
our emotional core. And we're kind of like, getting out of the ego of our mind and, really connecting with that authentic part of ourselves.
Awesome. All right, number two. So you did just mention, it's great. It's a great intro into this. So you mentioned that you review goals or intentions for yourself in the
Hmm.
mornings. So what is one of those goals or intentions that you set for yourself this year? And if you don't mind sharing, where do you stand with it now?
Yeah, sure. So one of the goals I did set for myself is to connect with my heart for at least 15 minutes a day.
Mhm,
And that is doing that heart focused breathing.
mhm,
And, to be honest with you, there have been maybe, I don't know, a handful of days where I haven't done it. And when that happens, I can really feel a difference in myself.
mhm.
So, it's important to me again to stay connected with my heart, to stay connected with my authentic self. And, on those days when I have missed, it's like I'm not beating myself up. It's like I'm giving myself grace and flexibility to
Mhm.
be like, okay, you missed today, like no big deal, just begin again tomorrow.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. And the last question is, what's a book, podcast, show, or anything that is inspiring you at the moment?
Yeah. So, well, I'll say that I love your podcast. I think it's great.
Thank you.
And yeah, let's see. So I do have a podcast of my own, actually. It's called From
Yes.
Heartbreak to Wholeness. And I found this really good podcast called Podcast Business School.
Mhm,
And it's by this guy, Adam, who gives different tools and tips and techniques just to get your podcast out there to a wider audience and to get
mhm,
your listeners engaged and just different ways on how you can better be of service to them.
mhm.
So I found it super helpful.
Awesome. I love that. All right.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't thank you enough. This has been such an amazing chat today. Of course, you can always come back here in the future and share this space with me again. But before I
Sure.
let you go, I'd like for you to leave the audience with three things you'd like for them to take away from our conversation.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So, the first thing I think is to just spend a couple of minutes a day connecting with the wisdom of your heart. I've said it a number of times, but again, I think it really is your authentic self. It's kind of really your true north. So it's really good just to tap into that and see, okay, where am I? How am I feeling today? How can I move forward on my healing journey?
Mhm,
The second thing I would say is that the majority of healing really is inside of you already.
mhm,
So, yes, sometimes we do need some outside support, but the majority, again, of your healing really is inside of you. So, you have all of the love and the strength and the confidence that you already need
mhm,
to really heal and move forward after you've been through a breakup or a divorce. And then the third thing that I would say is that it's important, like you and I discussed, to remember that your body will heal in many different levels and layers. So
mhm,
if something uncomfortable or challenging comes up, just know that it's another layer that's coming up to be healed. Don't get frustrated at the process or angry at yourself.
mhm.
Give yourself a lot of grace and a lot of compassion, just knowing that you can move through this level or this layer that's coming up to be loved free.
Awesome. Love those. All very, very good. Well, Nick, again, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. And this was an amazing conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kara. It's been my pleasure. And I just want to take a moment to really appreciate you and all of the wonderful work that you're doing, not only on yourself, but just through this podcast and helping women to heal on their journey. So awesome job.
Thank you so much.